Today we're going to show you Cyberbit range, but first let's talk a little bit about why Cyberbit range exists. So according to ISC Squared research, we're currently looking at a cybersecurity professional skill shortage of close to 4.07 million positions globally. That means there are currently 4.07 million unfilled positions globally in the cybersecurity field. Now, unfortunately, what that leads to is a significant increase in the number of records lost to data breaches every single year, right? We see this from the Cyber Risk Analytics 2019 year-end Quick View Data Breach Report. You can see that in 2019, attackers got significantly more creative. They were able to breach networks in a way that they weren't before, and that led to a significant growth in terms of number of records lost each year. Now, so we know that a cyber attack is inevitable. We know that eventually someone is going to attempt to breach your network, and they may even successfully breach your network. We also know that chances are your cybersecurity team is going to experience their first attack on the job. Based on industry research and our own primary research, we've learned that around 90% of cybersecurity professionals have never experienced a live attack. They've never been involved in an attack in progress, which puts us in a precarious position. So here at Cyberbit, we have a mission, and that mission is to provide effective training to every single cybersecurity professional on the planet. Now, how do we do that? We do that through hyper-realistic simulation. And I'll show you what that looks like quickly now, and then we'll get into a product demo. So if we take a look at what the range looks like on a network perspective, you see there are three main pillars as to how our range works. The first is the automated attack generator. This is real malware that our malware research team reverse engineered, rebuilt in a simulation perspective, made it safe so we could keep it inside our environment. These are end-to-end attacks, end-to-end attack scenarios, for blue teams, and end-to-end red teams pen testing scenarios for red teams. Now, in order for those attacks to take place, we need pillar number 2, which is our corporate network. Now, we have included in the Cyberbit range, we include multiple pre-built enterprise level networks. That means you see every segment, every device, every router that you would normally see on a corporate grade network every single day. Now, when we inject the attack traffic in, we're also injecting benign traffic like HTTP, webmail, IRC chat, everything like you would see on an every single day basis on your network, every traffic type. And the third pillar is the tools that you use to mitigate the attack. So on Cyberbit range, we provide either top tier open source tools, things that are industry standard, or commercially licensed tools. So we'll give you, for example, EPO from McAfee, a SIEM like IBM QRadar, Splunk, RSA NetWitness. We'll give you firewalls from Palo Alto and Checkpoint, amongst many, many other tools that will essentially allow you to recreate the experience of a real world attack on Cyberbit range so that your team is training either individually or as a team, but they are training against real attacks, that they experience all the stress, all the pressure, everything that comes with a real world attack. So I'm going to jump into Cyberbit Cloud Range, and we can kind of start to discuss those pillars we discussed earlier. Now, as you can see, I'm also here in the soft promotion fair. So any of you who would like to see, I'm currently the guy standing behind the lectern in the red flannel shirt in IT Security B. If you have any questions following, please feel free to come talk to me. I will be here for as long as people need. So jumping back into Cyberbit range, you can see we have a multitude of red and blue team scenarios here in our library, and it's quite a large library. There are over 40 scenarios that are pre-built on our range. Our range is accessible either as a dedicated instance, either cloud or on-prem, or you can access the Cyberbit cloud range through through a non-dedicated instance. On the range, we can sort by blue and red team training, by difficulty level, by nice work role. For those of you who are affiliated with the US, we do have all of the nice work roles mapped and all of our scenarios mapped to the nice work roles. MITRE will be coming soon as well. You can see our network components over here. You can sort by network component, by individual training, team training, a guided training with a trainer, or something that you can do on your own, self-training. Now, let's jump into our Dragonfly attack. Our Dragonfly attack, you can see over here, it gives you the difficulty level. Now you can ignore all the pricing here because this is all changing, but you can see we give you a quick overview. We give you those networks that we talked about earlier. So this is what that network topology is going to look like. You can see we have your internet segment, your DMZ, your web segment, your server segment, everything like you would see every single day. And you also can see up here the tools that are pre-built on this network. Now, if you look over here, you can see the attack flow or the kill chain that the attack is going to follow. So you can see it is a multi-stage end-to-end attack, starting with a spear phishing attack, all the way down through the exfiltration of data using a web shell created during the attack. We give you the recommended skill set and what your team is going to learn. Booking is as simple as hitting the book now button, choosing an available slot, choosing your network, choose your slot. If it's free, add in your trainees and go from there. Click confirm and you are booked. Now, what I'm going to do is I've already opened up an instance on Cyberbit range. Now, what you're going to see here, this is exactly what you see from the instructor's point of view. Now, when the instructor is ready, he hits start training, and that will immediately give access to the people training. In this case, it's Ashley, Daniel, Donald, and Edward. You can see we have 4 people training at once. We can do up to 8 people per classroom. So they are now getting a good look at their computer. This is the first time they're on this network, the first time they may be seeing this tools in this configuration. So they're getting themselves familiar. Now, once I hit play, the attack starts. And much like real life, the trainees do not get any notice that the attack has started. It is already in progress and happening on the network. You can see down here that I started it. You can see that they're setting up, the attacker is setting up their network, where they're changing the internal IP. Everything is going as usual during an attack. Now, over here, we have the objectives that the trainees need to complete. These objectives are built off the NIST incident response framework, which, as far as we've seen, is now the industry standard for incident response playbooks. We follow that so that your whole team is working on the same process. The last thing that we want happening is one person on your team deciding, well, I do everything through Linux, and another person on your team saying, well, I do everything through the tools, and then they're both parallel pathing and wasting double the amount of effort that they need to be, as opposed to working together as a team. All the goals over here are auto-detected by our system, by sensors on the system, so that the instructor is not focusing on did they detect the stop cron job on the Apache server, but focusing more on giving qualitative feedback. So for example, if Ashley should have been in the seam at this point, we can write, why aren't you in the seam in our notes, click save, and that is saved into the attack timeline for our debriefing session. Now, if we want, we can switch to look at different screens. So we can look at Ashley's screen, Daniel's screen. We can choose if we want to give different stars. Let's say we think she's a 4-star in professional skills, 3 stars in teamwork, but she really doesn't do that great in compliance. That being said, we think she's an overall 3 stars, and that gives her an overall rating. We can also inject different types of traffic. So we discussed before that we can add in malicious traffic as well as benign traffic. If I wanted to, I can make the scenario more complex by adding in, which I just did, 24 hours of additional brute force traffic, so that the analysts are not just looking for something specific inside the seam. There's now, many more events that have filled up the seam that they have to learn to ignore. You can also add in more benign traffic here, such as your HTTP, your webmail, and that IRC chat. Now, we can also see how the analysts are chatting to each other. So we do have built-in IRC chat on the platform, as you can see here. It looks like Slack, it feels like Slack. It's called Rocket Chat, but it is built in so that your team can learn to communicate with each other, especially if you're working with a follow the sun model and your team is just one of the teams. Maybe there's a US team that's a partner, or a South American team, or a European, or a Western European team that's a partner, and they have to do incident handover. So we want the teams to learn how to do incident handover in a follow the sun model using the IRC chat platform, which is similar to what they would do every single day. Now, once the attack is done, you hit stop. And I've now stopped it. Now I'm going to go back in and to our cloud range and show you what the debriefing screen on the cloud looks like. So here we have our debrief. And as you can see, following every training, our system sets up automatically this debrief. It'll give you the final grade of your team. This team did not do so great. They only got a 37 out of 100. Obviously, anything here can be edited by a trainer. You get the training duration. How long did it take them to complete or not complete the exercise? What the configurations were. So we have hints and solution briefs that are built into the platform if you're not in test mode, that will allow students to see, hey, I need a hint. What do I do next? You can see when and where those were taken by just clicking over here. So this is the exercise configuration that was used. We can see the milestones. So this team is much stronger on response than detection. So it kind of tells you where you need to focus your training. On the timeline here, we can change out the different pieces. So let's say I only want to see the notes that were given. I can do that. I can see the events inside the seam. I can see evaluators. So when were the detectors going, and then again, when the hints were taken. Following every scenario, we do include a quiz for people to answer. You can see exactly the answer as a team. So you can see how they answered, where, what they answered versus what the correct answer should have been, as well as taking a look at those solution briefs that we talked about earlier. So they did not use any hints in the scenario, but they did use a solution brief. On the on-prem version, we also offer session replay, where you can sit and go through the video, so that you can actually go through breakdown video with your team, do a peer review session, and really give them feedback. And instead, you can hand them this report later. Once our system has rendered the streams, you can also do session replay on a dedicated instance of cloud version. So that is a quick run through of Cyberbit range. The goal that we were trying to show you here is that the attacks are happening in real time. So you can speed up, slow down the attack. You can, make it more complex, less complex, but the goal is that your team gets the real experience and therefore are prepared when an attack comes. We've seen teams that use Cyberbit range for onboarding and training. We've had customers who have come to us and said we've reduced their training time by up to 3x. So you can do training in 33% of the time that you were doing it before, which means ultimately close to a $30,000 savings per year in salary cost alone, given that 4 months of training is industry standard. Using our platform, you can do it almost in a month. As well, we've seen about a 26% reduction in incident response time for teams that have done significant training on Cyberbit range. So this is a training platform that not only gives you the experience, but we know works. We know it gives you the results you're looking for. We know it helps your team to respond better, to work together as a team from a soft skills perspective, to communicate more effectively, and to ultimately ensure that whether you're an MSSP, whether you are an enterprise business, your team is prepared for the inevitable cyber attack. And I believe that's all the time I get for today, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Again, if you have any questions, I am standing at the podium right now, and I'm looking forward to speaking to as many people that would like to speak with us.
Stefan, thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Of course.
I check we don't have any questions.